What kind of man swings a flashlight at a pregnant woman's belly, claiming he's enforcing neighborhood rules, only to spark a birth right there on the asphalt? That's exactly what happened one Saturday morning in Willow Creek, a sleepy suburban pocket where matching mailboxes and white picket fences hide secrets nobody saw coming. This isn't just a story about a baby born in the street, it's about a fake cop, a husband's breaking point, and a neighborhood that finally said enough. It was the kind of morning where the air smelled like fresh-cut grass and coffee steamed from travel mugs as neighbors swapped small talk about mulch or the latest HOA gossip. Ethan and Lily, a couple counting down the final days of her pregnancy, were out for their usual walk. Lily, 39 weeks along, waddled with a stubborn grace, her hand looped around Ethan's wrist whenever she needed a breather. She'd whisper to the baby, describing the blooming roses or the way Mr. Thompson across the street wrestled with his ancient sprinkler. "Morning, Mr. Thompson," she called, grinning as he waved back. "Still keeping that kid under lock and key, huh?" he teased. Lily laughed, patting her belly. "Just fashionably late." Willow Creek was that kind of place, quiet, almost too perfect, where the biggest drama was a heated Facebook thread about Halloween decorations. Ethan loved these walks, the way they grounded him, the way Lily's determination made him feel like they could handle anything. But trouble doesn't always announce itself with sirens or shouts. Sometimes it stands silently, dressed like it belongs, waiting for you to cross its path. They were almost home when they saw him. A man, rigid as a statue, half hidden by a sprawling maple tree at the sidewalk's edge. His navy shirt was creased to perfection, patched with unfamiliar logos. Tactical pants, a two-way radio crackling too loudly, and a flashlight way too big for daytime dangled from his belt. No police car, just a beat-up white sedan parked crookedly nearby. Ethan slowed, a prickle of unease crawling up his neck. Lily stopped dead, her fingers tightening on his arm. The man stepped forward, deliberate, theatrical, planting himself square in their path, feet wide, hand resting on his belt like he was auditioning for a cop's show. Ethan's gut screamed something was off, but he recognized the guy. Neighbors had whispered about him, Carl, maybe Craig, nobody was sure. They called him the HOA cop, though he'd never shown up at an actual meeting. Stories floated around, fake citations for uneven shrubs, yelling at kids for skateboarding past curfew. Most folks wrote him off as a quirky nuisance, a guy with too much time and a thing for rules. But up close, under the morning sun, he didn't look quirky. He looked like he meant business. "Morning," Ethan said, keeping his voice steady. "We're just heading home." The man didn't blink. Sunglasses hid his eyes, but his jaw was tight. He pressed his radio, letting static hiss before releasing it. "This area is under EVYEW," he said, flat and official. "Vacate the path immediately." Lily frowned, glancing at Ethan. "What?" Ethan stepped slightly in front of her. "We live right there," he said, nodding toward their driveway. "My wife's pregnant. We're just walking." The man didn't budge. He gripped his flashlight, not to use it, but to make sure they saw it. The air shifted, like the moment before a storm breaks. This wasn't about sidewalks anymore. The patch on his shirt read, "Corporal Vance, HOA Enforcement." The letters slightly curled, like a DIY iron-on job. To a stranger, he might have passed for legit, but the badge was plastic, the radio a prop, and the binder tucked under his arm screamed self-printed nonsense. He carried himself like he was guarding a fortress, not a cul-de-sac. In his mind, he was the law, the last stand against chaos. Nobody asked him to be. Nobody wanted him to be. Neighbors had stories. He'd stopped teens skateboarding, threatening BHVY oral reports. He'd scolded a couple for watering their lawn at dusk, claiming it broke some made-up rule. Once, he tried to fine a woman because her pug's leash wasn't HOA compliant. At first, people laughed, thinking he was just odd. But over time, the laughter faded. He watched too closely, took photos of cars parked an inch over the curb, log trash bins left out past pickup. Some said he'd been kicked off the HOA board years ago after a screaming match. Others swore he'd never even been on it. He was a suburban myth, a ghost story told over backyard beers, a man who craved power and invented it when nobody gave it to him. But that morning, he crossed the line. Lily, breathing heavily, eased onto the curb to rest, one hand cradling her belly, the other gripping Ethan's arm. The heat, the walk, and now this strange man's stare pressed on her like a weight. "Just a second," she murmured, settling carefully. Ethan stood close, shielding her. The man Vance, or whatever his real name was, zeroed in, his gaze sharp, judgmental, like her sitting there was a crime. Without warning, he took 3 steps forward. "You can't sit there," he snapped. "This curbs HOA property. Utility access only." Ethan turned, his voice low but firm. "She's 9 months pregnant. She needs a moment. Back off." Vance didn't flinch. He twirled the flashlight like a baton, then stepped closer, too close. In one swift, deliberate motion, he raised the flashlight and thrust it forward, the end connecting with Lily's belly. Not hard, but hard enough. The world froze. Lily gasped, eyes wide with shock, not pain. Ethan felt something snap inside him, a primal surge he couldn't name. Before he could move, Lily grabbed his hand, her grip fierce. "Ethan," she said, voice steady but urgent. "The baby's coming. Now." Her words hit like a thunderclap. Ethan dropped to his knees beside her as her water broke, a sudden splash on the pavement. Neighbors spilled from their homes pajamas, workout gear, phones glowing as they took in the scene. Vance, unfazed, raised his flashlight like a traffic cop. "Step back," he bellowed. "This is an enforcement zone. Community Code 8C limits gatherings to 6 people." A voice from the crowd shouted. "She's having a baby, you idiot!" But Vance kept barking fake rules, oblivious to the chaos. Among the crowd, a woman pushed forward Emma, a paramedic who lived 2 streets over. "I need space," she called, calm but firm. "I'm trained." Vance blocked her. "You're not authorized for this sector," he said, like it was a war zone. Emma sidestepped him, dropping beside Lily. "Breathe, Lily," she said, checking her pulse. "In through the nose, out through the mouth." Ethan held Lily's hand, her knuckles white as contractions hit. The street buzzed, neighbors arguing with Vance, someone calling 911, a teenager whispering, "Is this guy for real?" Then a voice cut through. "I know him." Heads turned. An older man, Tom, a retired accountant and former HOA treasurer, stepped forward, squinting at Vance. "That's not Corporal Vance. That's Greg Holt." Murmurs rippled. "Greg?" Another neighbor chimed in. "The guy who left fake fines for patio umbrellas?" Tom nodded. "He got banned from the HOA 2 years ago. Forged letters, tried to scam people for compliance fees." The crowd turned, stories pouring out. Greg had patrolled lawns with a clipboard, invented shade regulations, even tried rewriting bylaws solo. The HOA minutes, pulled up on a phone, confirmed it. Gregory Holt, expelled March 18th. Greg stood frozen, flashlight trembling, sunglasses hiding eyes that screamed panic. His facade was crumbling, but he didn't back down. As Emma coached Lily through contractions, he pointed the flashlight at her. "You're interfering with enforcement," he shouted. The crowd gasped. Emma, unfazed, snapped, "I'm an EMT. Move." That's when Ethan stood. Not in rage, but with a quiet, unshakable resolve. He locked eyes with Greg. "Touch her again," he said, voice low, "and I swear." Greg, clinging to his delusion, raised the flashlight higher, defiant. Ethan didn't hesitate. One clean strike to Greg's chest sent him sprawling, the flashlight clattering across the pavement. Silence gripped the street. Greg scrambled up, dazed, reaching for his prop, but a soft voice stopped him. Mr. Larson, the retired librarian who fed sparrows at dawn, stepped forward. He pinned the flashlight under his shoe and looked Greg dead in the eyes. "You're done," he said. For words, quiet but final, hit harder than Ethan's fist. Lily's scream shattered the moment, raw and primal, echoing down the street. She lay on the asphalt, Ethan's jacket cushioning her head, his hands anchoring hers. Emma coached her through each push, her voice a lifeline. Neighbors fell silent, phones down, the air heavy with awe. At 9:27 a.m., a cry high, new, a lie pierced the tension. Emma lifted a tiny boy, wrapped in a neighbor's cloth, and smiled. "It's a boy." Lily laughed through tears, Ethan kissing her forehead, whispering thank yous he didn't know he was saying. Sirens wailed, paramedics, then police. The real kind. They took over, checking Lily and the baby, preparing transport. Blue lights flashed as officers approached Greg, now slumped on the curb. "You're detained for impersonation and public safety violations," one said. Greg stood, slow, like a man waking from a dream. His car revealed the truth: fake documents, plastic handcuffs, a binder of handwritten citations. He hadn't just played a role, he'd lived it. By evening, a neighbor's VY Deo went VY the headline screaming, "Woman gives birth in street after fake HOA cops attack." Ethan was hailed as a hero, Emma a saint, and Greg a cautionary tale. In the hospital, Lily cradled baby Oliver, Ethan never far from her side. Willow Creek changed. Casseroles appeared on their porch, a fundraiser covered bills and started a college fund. The next HOA meeting packed the room, neighbors demanding reform. Greg's name was erased from every record, a final end to his reign. Weeks later, Ethan walked Oliver down that same street, the baby blinking at the sky. He paused at the spot where it all happened, ordinary pavement, but sacred now. A wind chime sang softly nearby, like the neighborhood itself was breathing easier. Ethan smiled, not because it was easy, but because it was real. One man's fake badge was no match for a community that remembered what it meant to stand together.